Hey, this is Jay from Jay and Salt Bob, and you're listening to Bill and Jim in the Morning. Snoochie booches.
This is the Bill and Jim in the Morning radio program. Coming to you live from the Missouri Possum Studios in Sullivan, Missouri.
I'm sorry, I'm a little cranky this morning. I got no sleep last night. I feel like I've been run over. I must have slept 15 minutes last night.
Could you shut up?
I just got to get some sleep. That's it.
Shut up.
Let's have some quiet time.
All right, welcome back to the Bill and Jim in the Morning radio show on this Monday morning. Good to have you along. And tell you what, I'm very interested in some of the information we're about to hopefully learn here.
Yeah, and hopefully teach others.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's going to get a little something out of this. Timothy Fancher is the founder of American Street Edge Self-Defense Systems. And I was saying karate, but it's so much more. He's got a 4th degree black belt in American Kenpo karate. Fancher is a former police officer and has been a professional street self-defense instructor since 1999 with over 35 years of total martial arts experience. Now, he's a recognized expert in street self-defense, children's abduction prevention, and church security. Fancher also specializes in women's scenario-based street self-defense, and he's been a keynote speaker at numerous events, seminars, and conferences in various states since 2003, which is very cool. And also Master of Arts in Practical Theology from Oral Roberts. And while attending Columbia College, he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies with an emphasis on sociology and an Associate of Science in Criminal Justice. Recently opened American Street Edge LLC downtown Union and here in Missouri, and offers individual and group classes for adults and children. Please welcome to the program Tim Fancher. Good morning,
Tim.
Sir. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you guys letting me come on here, and it really shows how much you, Missouri Possum, cares about your listeners, that you're having me come in to see if I can help people be a little safer this holiday season.
Well, you know, we appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, brother.
Frankly, this is a big deal. I mean, there's the world's changed so much, and I think that kind of lends to everybody in the last couple of years feeling insecure to a degree, and anxious. Anxious is a good.
The anxiety is really becoming a problem, and that's one of the things that we address in the classes, and that's part of the fear management. That's part of American Street Edge.
Well, I know that you specialize, in everything down there, from like street self-defense, church security. We talked about that, abduction prevention for children, which is huge. Women's self-defense. I mean, this morning, though, you kind of wanted to hone in on one topic.
Yeah, I thought that what would be a good thing this morning is, it's gotten dark earlier. A lot of people are out shopping. I think more people are shopping this year because they really couldn't last year, so they're enjoying going out again. You've got different holiday parties and events. More people are out after dark, and so I thought that one of the things that would really be of benefit to the listeners would be to discuss street safety awareness, which is definitely one of my specialties, and how people can stay safer while they're out shopping, while they're at the parties, without just feeling all scared and jittery all the time.
Right. Boy, that makes sense. It is. The more I think about it, the more I think you're absolutely right. First of all, I think this time change thing is stupid.
I just can't believe it's still happening.
Exactly, right?
I really thought that by now it would be over with, but
it's
nobody likes this.
No.
Right.
Right. And I can't find anybody that can tell me a valid reason why we still do this.
Nobody can. And the thing is, around this time, more people are getting desperate. And that's something to think about when you're looking at recognized responding predatory behavior, is that some of the people that are predators, they still have families. And so they're getting a little more desperate, thinking, I need to be able to get Christmas stuff. Right. So that's why it's everything from burglaries of people breaking into the houses all the way up to muggings and things of that nature in the parking lot do go up around this time of year. So along with all the holiday cheer, there's some things that people have to really think about, but there's some actionable steps that people can take to make them start to send off that strong, clear message, I'm not a victim. And that's what I was going to touch on here this morning.
Now, what's the thing that, is there something that's an easy, one takeaway that's easier than the others that people can immediately do
Absolutely.
to make themselves safer?
Environmental awareness is everything. Environmental awareness is the Kenpo term for looking around, being aware of your surroundings. You know, everybody talks about phones nowadays, but the thing is, I've been doing this a very long time, and back in 99, I was a director of overnight security at all women's college, and if you took pictures of how the students would sometimes walk across the quad at 2 in the morning, it looked like they had an iPhone, even though they didn't. That when people just have kind of either a naive or more of a timid mindset, there's a certain body language they tend to have, and it looks almost like they're hunched over a phone. Predators can spot that from a mile away. It is so simple to not look like a victim by simply have your back straight, have your head up, look around, be aware, be confident. What I teach my students is tiger in the jungle. When a tiger walks through the jungle, it's not looking around, oh, no, don't eat me. It's, I'm a tiger, I'll murder your face if you mess with me. I mean, you start to get that kind of mentality. Right. And it's not that you're being all twitchy and paranoid and jittery. It's simply that you're confident. When someone looks at that, especially if it's a younger person, if it's a teenager, or if it's a single mom or a female college student, and they're looking and they're like, she doesn't look like anybody else, immediately a red flag goes up in the predator's mind. They don't know if she has a weapon, if she's a black belt, if she's just a crazy person. All they know is this. What I tell my students is this: look like you're going to be too much trouble. If you look like you're going to be too much trouble, they're going to select an easier victim. To go back to the tiger thing, they don't go after the strongest gazelle. They go for the weakest one at the back of the pack. Don't be the weak gazelle, be the tiger. Start to have that mentality, and it will start to change things for you instantly.
So you want to convey that.
Yeah, and there are so many things, you know, we're talking about the kids and ladies and people shopping and men. So many of them have iPods in their ears.
It's terrible.
They're zoned out.
They're gone. I mean, and you know, so absolutely just engage your senses. I always tell them, the kids class, engage your mind. For the adults, is engage your senses. And the other thing, and this is easy, I don't have to spend a lot of time on it, because you can go to AmericanStreetEdge.com, and there's an article I wrote called "Why Are You Carrying All Those Bags?" If you have more than 2 or 3 bags, do not just try to carry them out to your car. Use a shopping cart. First off, it attracts attention to you. I mean, think about it. When you see someone struggling with 8 or 10 bags, for whatever reason, your eye naturally goes to them. Well, when you've got a predator who's hurting, who's needing their fix, they're needing their medicine, and they look over and they see this lady with all these bags, they don't see Mary Jane, mother of 2, trying to get stuff for her family. They don't even see a person. They see stuff that they think that's mine. There's a sense of entitlement that goes all the way to the predator mindset. And so you're attracting attention, and they're, oh, right there, that's my fix. And you know what? I could probably buy a couple Christmas presents out of that too. So having that cart that frees up your hands, it frees up your mind. You don't attract as much attention to yourself, and that's something, when I talk about scenario-based street self-defense, that's some of the stuff we actually role-play out, of what to do when the person is walking up to you, of ways you can start to shut that down. So it's not as hard as people think, but then on top of that, you know, just talking about even the cart can end up becoming a weapon or a distraction, something you run around. And again, that's not being all paranoid. It's just starting to take more of a realistic, pragmatic view of the nature of the reality of violence in the street and in parking lots. And there are predators out there. There are bad people out there. They do want to do harm to you. But by simply having more confidence, being aware of your body language, and start to think of some of these things, are how you can start to send that strong, clear message: I am not a victim. And if it's that much better as word spreads, is heaven help you, because I'm an American Street Edge student as well.
There you go. There you go. Well, you know, it also sounds like not only are you refocusing our own perception of ourselves and how we portray ourselves in that scenario, but also understanding that mindset of the others. Because, you know, like the example you said with the lady with all the bag, you know, most of us, I think, we look at that and it does draw our attention, but most of us think, oh, I should go help that lady. Yeah. But you're saying, you know, these predators, they look at that. They don't look at it the same. They absolutely don't. The wiring is different. I mean, plain and simple. You know, the one thing is political correctness will get you killed. You have to sometimes just take an honest approach that there's going to be people out there that have an animalistic approach. Sure. And you know, that's they're not interested in helping her. I can tell you that much. Right. So you know, that's where you start to get that understanding. And once it becomes part of your everyday lifestyle, it's not that you're going to be all twitchy and paranoid.
paranoid. It's that you're doing the same thing there to keep yourself safe as when you guys drove to work today. You put on your seatbelts. I have no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. You didn't stop and think about why you're putting on your seatbelts, about how really it's pretty terrifying to think of trucks going past you at 70 miles an hour, things of that nature, or people you may have known that's been hurt or killed. You just click it. When you wash your hands before you prepare a meal or eat, you don't go down the road thinking all about food poisoning. You just do it. Do you see what I'm getting at? Mm-hmm. We do numerous things throughout the day to keep us safe, and it doesn't make us, that we're some sort of paranoid person. It's, hey, I'm trying to live over here. Right. So you can add these street edge concepts to these things that you do in your everyday life, and it's going to make you that much safer. And then when you actually take classes with me, you learn the physical parts to it. You start to understand some of the different fear management concepts. You understand the basic physiology and anatomy of the body. You start to understand fear management and some of the ways that you can control your body if you are in a really violent situation, as well as, of course, the techniques. You're just in a whole different ball game while having a lot of fun and meeting some great people, too.
That's really neat. Now, with me, the seatbelt thing's just, I don't want to hear the truck keep dinging.
Yeah. Tim, people may think this only happens in they only need to be alert to this stuff in the big city. Say they're going to St. Louis or they're going to Kansas City or something like that. But we're starting to see more and more of these issues in rural communities as well.
Right.
And it's vitally important that
just drugs. Just absolutely, they've wrecked and changed so many lives. And anyone who tries to say, and I'm not disparaging at all, because I've lived here for 2 years and I've already met some amazing people. I signed a long lease. I'm gonna be here a long time. Mm-hmm. My mom's here, but there's anyone who tries to deny that this area in Franklin County, Sullivan Union does there's not issues with drugs. They're just being naive.
Right.
And and when people get to that point, it literally changes the wiring of the brain. It changes the chemistry of the brain. And whenever they get to that point and they look at someone, they're not seeing a person. They don't view them with that same sort of empathy. So what I'm doing is teaching people to minimize the chances of you being selected as that victim, mm-hmm. doing it as a non-intrusive a way as possible. Because the great thing is all that becomes so easy, you don't really think about it, because once you're my student, you're so focused on learning that cool new technique, this other stuff is just part of who you are, and it all becomes fun. And it is extremely unlikely that you're going to be targeted whenever you start to have that, and you start to have that understanding of your body, and the way you walk and carry yourself and the way you look is going to just fundamentally change. Predators are stupid, but they're good at one thing, and that's selecting a victim. And so, whenever that's why, like I said, it's easy to not look like one of those victims.
Now, what about, and I'm not going to just focus on the difference between men and women here, and I think it's also a difference in upbringing and societal expectation. It trains people to be a certain way. But, some people, the idea of, oh man, I could go learn self-defense, I could go learn this stuff, I think of that, I think, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But there would be plenty of people out there who would go, oh my gosh, that's scary.
Right.
I don't think that's.
And I think one of the reasons I have such success as an instructor is I fully understand that, and I remind myself of that every time I have someone coming in. My location, the owner of the building, John Jasper, really believed in me, and so even in constructing the building, I was thinking about that. So there's luxury flooring in there. I have $1,500 worth of mirrors professionally installed, brand new paint. It still smells new in there. It's gorgeous. It's super clean. It's modern, inviting. So when people walk in, it doesn't look like some dark, dank, karate school from the 70s. It looks like a modern place. And so, and as I lead them down the path of helping them understand that we do use and instill traditional martial art values, society needed that, and that's why I wanted to bring it back. So in there, I'm not Tim, I'm Mr. Fancher. And at the beginning of the class, I go over, okay, here's some of our goals tonight. At the end of it, here's what I expect you to do. I expect you to practice at home, and you're going to hear from me if you don't. And then here's what we're going to do the next class. And even though people are saying yes, sir, and no, sir, they're being pushed. And, sometimes I will deliberately get their adrenaline up in some of those drills so they can understand that. Sure. At some point, inevitably, I have to stop teaching because everyone's laughing so hard because we have fun. Right. So it's really, I understand that, and I get it, and I'm empathetic to it. It's scary, but when you walk through that door, you're being very brave, and you're taking those steps to changing your life. Right. And people know that. And, and I can, and just wrapping that part up, I can speak to the success of that to maybe help dispel some of those fears. I started doing something I've never done, which was I give away a 30-minute free intro lesson for both the adult and the kids program. 100% 100% of the people that has taken that free lesson has signed up. 100%. Wow. Every single person's walked through my door signed up. I had a mom sign up her daughter after one lesson with me, and I hadn't even met the daughter yet. So, there's something very special happening in American Street Edge, and people are finding out about that, and they're coming into it.
And that's all ages, right, Tim? Because if we have, we have some older audience members. I mean, so it's from
6 to 12 in the kids program. As the school grows, I'll probably have a separate class for around that 10, 11, 12, and then 13 and above. And like we were kind of joking about off the air, a lot of people do end up. I've been in Kenpo for 35 years, but I earned a black belt in Taekwondo short of my 16th birthday. I couldn't do that stuff right now I was doing when I was 16. And so, Kenpo is pragmatic in that approach too. And if someone does have a physical limitation, I have a million ways to get around that. If someone's, in their 50s and they've got bad knees, that's not going to keep them from practicing Kenpo. The oldest student I ever had, it was only for one session. It was at a special event in Columbia, but he was 82. Wow. I mean, if I had an 82-year-old in there, I'd be telling the 20-year-old guys, be careful. But, so I'm being practical here, but as I don't know if it's because as I've gotten older, that's why, but my student base has gotten older. I tend to have a lot of people in their 30s and their 40s, and they're very pleasantly surprised they can do it, and they like the way that they're getting sore because they know it's a good kind of sore.
Right.
So from the group classes.
The question I had too was, 3-time broken back winner and and knees blown out and surgeries. And that was a concern I had. I've always had with that was, is that something I can even do?
I've always said, no one walks to my school in a bubble. Everyone has something, whether it was a medical thing or maybe they had some kind of training that's going to make it harder for them, to kind of unlearn some of those habits. But we'll get through it. I mean, the other key to my success and how I measure my success, I need to be a little better businessman, maybe think more financially, but I still go to my students first. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I look at is I've realized a long time ago, it's not about how tough, big, and strong I am. It's how tough, big, and strong can I make you. And that's my focus. And that's why I have such a good success as an instructor, because my students pick up on that within a few minutes of my very first lesson. Yes. And then if someone, when I inevitably start getting the, oh, woe is me, my this, and this, a lot of times I stop them. And I'm like, we don't need to take the time on this. I've got a trained eye. I can tell. And then beyond that in group class, if your knee's bothering you and we're doing kicks, just do every other kick. And no one else is caring about what you're doing. They're focused on themselves. So it's no big deal. Just skip every other kick if your knee's bugging you. So it's that thing where people just over worry about that stuff. And when I say just come in and try it, and if it's for you and you've got the right attitude, I'll make you successful.
Well, one of the things that occurs to me with this, and he went back to the last question of those who would think that it was scary, but ties right in with this can I do it kind of thing is, if you have an affliction or you're elderly or you're not strong statured, those are probably the people who would stand out as more the victim role maybe in society, and maybe should learn these, at least very much the habits of keeping themselves looking.
Well, and if they truly can't do the physical part of it, because again, I have to be practical. I have, for the women's seminar, I have a 4-hour seminar, and 2 hours is purely verbal, and it's getting much deeper in that predatory behavior. It's getting deeper into understanding the psychological and physiological effects of fear in the body. So there's verbal seminars. So I mean, theoretically, it could come to even someone coming to me for 45 minutes a week, sitting across the desk from me as I teach them these sort of things. So, there's ways around that. But again, if someone just flat physical, I'm not going to let someone put themselves in more danger, if there's something. But I've got the 14 key concepts, and on each one of those, I can talk for a couple hours off the top of my head. That's not even counting all the stories I have, and then I've been blessed with quite an education, and all that has tied into it. So, there's a tremendous amount of ways to help people if they're really serious about taking their safety in their own hands.
Well, it sounds like so much of it is mental and just
so much of it. Absolutely. If I had someone who they said I'm going on a missionary trip tomorrow and it's kind of a rough area and I've got 1 hour, I would spend 50 minutes going over a lot of the verbal things and then about 10 minutes teaching them 1 or 2 key, easy to remember techniques. Right. And I wouldn't have said that 25, 30 years ago. That's my experience. And then some of the things that I've been through, to, with law enforcement, with security and things like that, where I've learned that.
Sure. Now, I think a lot of us, especially in a constitutional carry state,
yes,
a lot of us
I know
think,
it's coming.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna shoot the guy.
Right.
If my life's in danger. What do you say to that?
Well, I am a huge proponent of firearms, and the absolutely fantastic thing is Black Dragon Arms in Union, an amazing gun shop owned by Dennis and Rose. Dennis is a gunsmith. Rose is, I believe, and I hope I'm not wrong here, but I believe she's the only female NRA certified instructor in the area. Oh, wow. She's a domestic violence survivor. They are truly passionate about safety and security. They signed up, and not only did they sign up for lessons, they signed up their teenage kids. So I have all of Black Dragon in there. So that right there says it, because they said that before they met me, they were having conversations as a family in the living room. We can't always have our gun with us, and then on top of that, you can't always get to it. One of the scariest situations of my life, no one would have had a gun on them, and believe me, I wished I was armed, but there was no way I could have been. And and that was a few years ago, in a very unsuspecting kind of situation. I'm not going to have time for the story now, but then the other thing is, you're not always going to be able to get to your weapon. It does frustrate me when someone says, I'll just shoot them, and I say, okay, well, how much crisis training have you had in the firearm? And then after that, okay, great, well, how much have you had where you've got your training weapon, you've got your retention holster, but then you've got someone physically attacking you where you have to create space and get to your weapon? How much have you had? And then it's crickets. So it's not that easy just to get to it. You can go on YouTube and see footage of everything from these hot young, these hot shot young guys right out of the academy struggling to get their weapon out in a crisis, all the way to seasoned officers where someone's in close, because people don't realize, but violence doesn't happen way back here. It happens just right up on top of you. Right. So you have to be able to understand how to create that distance and get to that weapon. So if you're going to take that kind of approach, then of course that's great. Okay, fine, but let's be pragmatic and realistic. You need to have that level of training, and then you need to understand you're not going to have a gun on you 24/7, period. I mean, there's places you can't, and there's places where you just wouldn't think of it either. Right. Without getting the whole thing, that story I told about, I was in the shower at the gym, and I thought a gunfight was about to break out between two guys, and it was a high-end luxury gym. I mean, it was an expensive place, and I was in the shower with soap in my hair, and one guy's threatening to shoot the other, and I thought he had a gun. Wow. So I'm thinking slippery floor, I can't see, I'm not wearing any clothes. I mean, it was awful. Yeah. And it made me, really appreciate that. I don't care how many rules you have. I don't care what the situation is, whatever. I always have my Kenpo on me. I've always got my Street Edge on me. You can't say that about that. So, again, I'm a huge proponent, and Black Dragon is a part of American Street Edge now, and that the entire family, they're a very successful shop. And like most parents with teenage kids, they're busy, and they're coming out 2 evenings a week faithfully now. That really should send a message to people about taking that whole person approach to safety. I always say it's mind, body, spirit, and to me that really demonstrates it.
Now, does learning this stuff, make anybody, I don't know, paranoid or jittery?
Not in my school. Okay. When I came up with the idea of American Street Edge was actually when I was in the police academy in the year 2000. What happened was I just looked at it. It wasn't what other martial arts schools have. The watershed moment is what don't they have? And I realized nobody was talking about the psychological and physiological effects of fear in the body, and then very few were talking about how to recognize predatory behavior. And if they did, they weren't talking about how to respond to it. So it's like, okay, he's a bad guy, now what? So so I spent 2 years studying and designing, basically studying all the ologies to come up with American Street Edge, and built within that is the fear management, where I can teach people at going back to the seatbelt and washing your hands. Make it part of your lifestyle to the point you don't even have to think that much about it, and chances are people are going to look at you and they're not going to want any part of you. And if they do, I'm going to teach you how to manage it in a way that will, on top of everything else, keep you out of prison. So that's another thing we talk about. We talk about levels of control and not doing something that's going to ruin your life because this knucklehead bumped shoulders with you on Black Friday. So right. We cover all that stuff too.
Yeah. Tim, a listener says, a female listener, she says, I always wear athletic clothing when shopping alone. Go on. My question is, does that make a difference becoming a victim?
Absolutely not. one of the angriest I've ever became was when I was teaching at University of Missouri, and I found out that in a psychology department they were telling students, don't wear baggy clothes to a party because they can grab you and get you down and assault you. And I about lost my mind that the instructor that brought me in and what I represent was teaching that kind of fear-based nonsense. So for her, that was a great question, but it sounds like, it's another thing. If it's been perpetrated of you have to almost have this submissive view of, because I'm a female, so worry about this. No, don't do that. I would say, if you're my student, you wear what you want, you wear what's comfortable, and if they mess with you, like I said, we're going to go back to Tiger in the Jungle. But chances are that's probably not even going to happen. So I don't like it when something like that changes someone's everyday life. So wear what you want, wear what you're comfortable in, learn the concepts, learn the techniques, and then once again, they're probably not going to mess with you. And if they do, the top 2 rules in American Street Edge: number 1, don't ever touch me without my permission; number 2, no fight should last longer than 3 seconds. So even if something does happen, she's going to do what she needs to do and get out of there, and she can run faster in athletic clothes too. So win-win.
Right. I think a lot of it, from what I'm getting from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of it's learning those skills yourself of building that confidence.
Quiet confidence is the term I use.
And quite frankly, there's that old saying, if you dress for success, and success will follow that. But it seems to me, if you have that confidence, which dressing for success, let's face it, just builds your confidence,
right,
as would anything else. This would be such a valuable tool in building such a large form of confidence for yourself in your everyday life that you're probably going to find yourself being a little more productive, a little more successful overall.
Yeah, I've had emails that have made me emotional before, where I one time had an email from a student I hadn't seen in 15 years, and he told me that he just got this massive promotion. He's able to buy this dream house and all this, and he said, I was using concepts I learned from you back in the early 2000s. I mean, so absolutely, when you get to that level, and that's my theory. I won't go on too much of a tangent here, but what I saw that the original Karate Kid has been continuing to trend on Netflix all year. Not only was I just delighted by that because I'm obsessed with all things 80s, but I really looked at it was a young people with cancel culture and all this wishy-washy nonsense. They're sick of it. And so they were seeing, if you really watch that movie and try to think of it from a younger person's perspective, the lessons Mr. Miyagi was giving Daniel, they don't know that stuff anymore. No. And that for an adult authority figure to say, this is how it is because I said so, he would still explain it. It wasn't just pure authoritarian, but there was that. They craved that, and that's what I wanted in American Street Edge, and that's why I'm really trying to get the teens and the people in their 20s in there. They're a little harder to market to reach, without question, but when they get in there and the word spreads, I think I'm going to have a line around the block, because they are going to be so drawn to that discipline and respect that they know something is missing in this culture and they don't know what it is.
Right.
And to me, that was one of those little things that came up when I was like, because I was looking at it, I was like, why are they so drawn to it? I mean, it's a wonderful movie, but in this day and age, and then it just hit me, it was because of those lessons. They crave that, they want that. So when they can get that foundation, I mean, in the kids class, I hear almost weekly from parents who are saying, grandparents and other relatives are saying, they cannot believe how much the kids have changed, and I've only been open 5 weeks, so they've only been with me a few weeks, and they're seeing these improvements at home because of the lessons I'm giving them there. And that's what's getting me up in the morning and making me at this age be crazy enough to jump in this environment, and and everything is just so crazy right now to be opening a business, but I really looked at this can make a difference. My goal is Franklin County as a whole starts getting so much safer, people start to notice and they realize it's the outgrowth of American Street Edge and these concepts that are taught, and that people in authority notice. That is legitimately one of my goals, because it can happen.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head exactly with what's missing in this culture, in the society, what we've lost along the way, and what needs to be regained. I mean, quite frankly, hey, Tim for president. What the hell?
I don't want it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And that shows he's smart.
Yeah. I've been kicked in the head a lot over the years, but not that many times.
Jim, I got to tell you, we've taken up far more of your time than we anticipated. We appreciate that, that you've given us that.
It's an honor.
And I hope that, maybe we can have you on again sometime in the future. And you know what? Maybe we can do a portion of the show on Facebook Live that day, and you can show us a couple of little moves or something.
Sure.
Just something that you come up with that you think would be valuable for people to know, why not? It should be kind of fun. Now, if people want to, and I think this is a huge thing right here, if people want to contact you, obviously we've got the link for the website and your Facebook page on the post, and we'll make sure that we've got that. That was on last night's post, and we'll make sure that that's shareable and everything. Are those the easiest ways to reach out?
Yeah, just because of the nature of the school right now, I'm telling people it's more appointment based. I mean, it's not like I'm really easy to get to. I'm right by the city auditorium, right off 50 in downtown Union, so I'm super easy to get to. But I'm a destination place, so with that being said, it's best just to contact me, and then I'll personally be the one to write back and get you on the schedule. So just AmericanStreetEdge.com or on Facebook, and then you can contact me directly through the website, or you've got a couple different emails. There is a phone number, so you're welcome to call. Probably leave a message, and I'll get back to you fairly soon after that. But going through there, because also I'd like people to go through the website because it's pretty comprehensive. There's even a question and answer session, so people can really understand what American Street Edge is all about. Right. But again, that free 30-minute lesson is still going, and that's for adults and kids. So all someone has to do is write me and say, hey, I want to get on the schedule. And certainly, if they heard me on Missouri Possum Radio, I'd like to know that too.
Oh yeah, listener, we appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Listener Julietta says, excellent information, Timothy. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And our other female listener, she answered the question. She says, thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think this has given a lot of people a lot to think about, and quite frankly, it's something that you can do maybe a couple nights a week, and probably change your life substantially, not just keeping you a little safer while you're out there, but also, maybe change the outlook on everything.
Confidence, respect.
Confidence.
Yeah. I mean, classes are only an hour. I go as fast in class as I did here, so you learn a lot in a short period of time. But right now, groups they're Tuesdays and Thursdays. As the school grows, I'll add more, but I'm sticking with the standard Kenpo formula of 2 group classes a week. The regular program, someone signs up, they get 1 45-minute private lesson with me a month, so we can kind of slow down detail things. So yeah, it's only a couple nights a week, and all it takes is that one time. And when I tell people, it's not the one time of you getting in a fight, it's the one time you avoid something and you avoided it because of taking lessons, then it paid for itself about 100 times over.
Right. Well, Timothy Fancher, I cannot thank you enough for coming on this morning. It's been our pleasure, and we look forward to having you on again.
Well, I really appreciate it, all of you.
Well, we look forward to hearing about it too. I'd love to know how things are going, and love to hear from any of our listeners that sign up and take that course as well.
Absolutely, and
hear back from them. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of people talking about the different benefits and probably some things we didn't even think to mention today. So.
Well, that's what the next segment's for.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you so much.
Tim.
We'll be talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back here on the Bill and Jim in the Morning radio show. We got a lot coming up and very little time to do it in because you know how we are. We blab a lot.
We do.
And we did it. We did it again. We'll be right back.
Bill and Jim in the Morning.